So yesterday we saw the different ways of shutting down the database and different ways of starting a database, right? And then
Yes,
we also discussed about the various phases that the instance goes through when you shut it down or when you start it up, correct?
yeah,
And then we today we will see how to say put a database in read-only mode, or how do we put a database in a restricted mode. Okay. And what is the
yeah,
difference between say both of those modes? So currently, if you want to identify whether your instance is at no mount stage, or at the open stage, we make use of the information that is present inside the view v dollar instance. Okay. DESC
mhm,
v dollar instance. And we check this column by the name status, right? Select
yes,
status from v dollar instance. So it says the
open,
currently the instance is open.
open
Okay.
state. Mm,
Yeah. And open it is saying fine, but whether the database is opened in read only mode or read write mode, okay, that it is not telling you. Okay.
oh,
So for that, we have to query the v dollar database view. Okay.
mm,
So we will do select name, comma, open underscore mode from v dollar database. Okay, so it is telling you that the database is running in read write mode. Okay. Now, if the database has already been opened in read write mode, we cannot convert it into read only mode. Okay. What we have to do is we have to shut it down first. Then we have to take the instance at the mount stage. So we give startup mount.
no,
Yeah. And here we have to fire this command alter database open read only.
open.
Now, if you fire the same command to check the status or open mode of the database, it says read only. Okay. So read only mode is very simple, like the name suggests. You can only query the data which is already present in the database. That is, you can only fire select statements
Select.
in the database. Okay. You cannot modify any previously existing data in the database. You cannot add a new table, or you cannot create new objects in the database. No new modifications will be possible, right?
Yes,
So there are situations wherein you might need to put the database in read-only mode, or there might be some requirement that the application teams or the businesses that open the database in read-only mode. Okay. So something similar to the read-only mode is a restricted mode of the database. Okay. Now, what is the difference between a read-only mode and a restricted mode? In case of restricted mode, only those specific users who have got the restricted session privilege, okay, only those specific users who have got this restricted session, okay, This kind of privilege is only those users who have got this specific privilege, they will be able to connect to the database when the database is opened in the restricted mode. However, in case of read-only mode, all the users can connect to the database. They can fire all those commands for reading the data from the database. Okay. Now, let's see how do we put the database in restricted mode.
Hi, Dhruva.
Yeah, hi. Is that Mahesh?
Yeah. Sorry.
Yeah. Yeah, no problem. How are you now?
Yeah, fine. That's correct.
Oh, okay. So you only missed yesterday's session, right?
Yes.
Yeah, fine. So I think yesterday's session should get uploaded in next couple of hours. So you
Okay.
can go through that.
Sure.
So if you want to put the database in restricted mode, what you can do while starting up the database instance, you can say startup restrict. Okay. Now, if you check this command, okay, it says the database is opened in read write mode. There is no difference over there. Okay. But still, what is going to happen? Not all the users can connect to the database. Only the users who have got the restricted session privilege, they will be able to connect to the database. Okay. I'm just trying to find out from which view we can get the details, like whether this, I mean, how do we actually identify that this has been opened in restricted mode? Just give me a moment. Okay, fine. I don't recall that at this moment, but I'll check on that and I'll let you guys know in next session. Okay. Meanwhile, we'll continue further. But for now, just understand that if you want to put the database in restricted mode, what you can do is you can fire this startup restrict command. Okay. So now also understand the difference between startup restrict and read only mode. Okay. Okay, so let's discuss a little more about modifying the parameters in the database. So first of all, if you are connected to the database and if you want to check any parameter value, we can make use of this command show parameter and then the name of the parameter. Okay. So, and if you don't give the name of the parameter, you only fire show parameter, it will list out all the parameters that are present in the database. Okay. 400, 450, all of those will be listed over here. Okay. If you want to check a specific parameter, then say show parameter, whatever parameter value that you want to check. Okay. So it will give you the parameter value for which you want to check its value. Okay.
If we don't
Now,
know that parameter name, then how could means is there any like operator or wild character, wildcard characters like?
Yeah, so see, you have got couple of options. Like firstly, you can do this show parameter itself. It will of course list out all those parameters that are present in the database. Okay. The other option is you can make use of this view v dollar parameter, desc v dollar parameter. Okay. So this view also will have all the parameters that are present in the database. Okay. So I can fire a command select name comma type comma value from v dollar parameter where name like okay.
Seems it's exactly like a SQL queries only.
Yeah, so at SQL at query level, if you see, almost everything will be similar. Okay, at query level, most of the things will look similar only. The syntax, the
Okay.
structure, it will be
Mm,
pretty much same.
okay. Okay.
Okay, so if I want to find out all the parameters which has got this DB in its name, okay, so we can make use of this parameter, this view v dollar parameter. Okay, that's what you were asking, Mahesh.
Yes. Yes. No,
Okay,
just I
fine.
was today only I used the same query like query in
Okay.
my environment. So then I
Mhm.
got confused.
No, okay, fine, no problem. So this is how you make use of the v dollar parameter view for identifying the parameters. Okay, no problem.
Except
So
V dollar, we don't use. We use only database name instead of V dollar database.
instead of v dollar,
We use means SQL instance. We use a database name.
okay, fine, got it. So here when we fired the show parameter command, it listed all these parameters and their corresponding values to us. And when we were discussing these parameters, we also said that these parameters are either static in nature or dynamic in nature, which means that some of those parameters, which are so-called static parameters, you cannot change their values on the fly. However, the dynamic ones, you can change their values on the fly, provided your instance was started using the dynamic parameter file, correct? You remember that this
Yes, yes,
discussion?
yes.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah.
Calls can be.
So let's try to change a couple of parameter values here. Let's try to change this parameter value. Okay. It says specified initialization parameter cannot be modified. That means the parameter is static. Okay. However, if you want to still modify this parameter, it means that you will have to bounce your database instance. Okay. If you want to modify a static parameter value, you will have to bounce the database instance. So how do we do that? So we will give this, we'll modify this command. We will say scope equals to sp file. Okay. So what this does, it will update the parameter value db underscore files to 300 in the sp file. Okay. However, that parameter value is not effective for the current running instance. That parameter value will get effective, or it will come in effect only when you bounce the instance. Okay, so again, if you check that parameter value just for confirmation, show parameter db_files. Okay, you see its value is still 200. However, we have set it to 300. But the thing is, because this was not getting modified dynamically on the fly, we had to give this option of scope equals to sp file. Okay, now let's try to bounce this instance. See, the parameter value has changed. Before shutting down, it was 200. Now it is showing 300.
300. You mean
Because the way,
bounce means a shutdown in the database?
sorry, what was
Bounce,
that?
bounce. Mahesh,
Yeah, we bounced the database, right?
bounce means is a shutdowning or restarting the database.
Shut
What does
down
it mean?
and start. Shut down and start. Bounce means going down and coming up.
Okay, okay.
Okay, and if someone says shut down, that means you only shut down. You only bring it down. You don't bring it up. Okay, bounce key a word whenever you listen, it means that you have to shut it down and start it up as well. That
Mm.
is a restart kind of a thing. Okay.
We usually speak this kind of means reboot the system like
Yeah,
use
one and
this
the
kind of
same thing. All refers to the same. Reboot, you say bounce, you say bounce the server. It means one and the same thing. Okay. So, if you want to modify the static parameter value, in that case, you have to bounce the instance. Okay. And before you bounce the instance, you have to modify the parameter value and mention this specific keyword like scope equals to sp file, which means that the parameter value should be updated in the sp file, and that new value will come into effect when the instance is restarted. Okay, clear with that?
yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, the next parameter that we will try to modify is, let's say, show parameter processes. Okay, this one is also a static parameter only. I want some dynamic parameter. D_name, DB writer, simple process. Let's try to modify this open courses. Okay, so this parameter open_cursors, this is dynamic in nature. Okay, See, previously it had a value of 600. I changed it to, now it is changed to 200. Okay. Now, if you see in this command alter system set, I did not give any keyword like scope equals to. Okay. You see it, you see this command here, we have not specified scope equals to anything. Okay.
Yes.
So if you don't specify that scope equals to keyword, by default, it has a value of both. Okay. So coming to that scope parameter, scope keyword, scope can have either of these possible values. Scope equals to SP file, which means that the new parameter value will be effective after the instance is restarted. Okay. Other possible value for scope is both, which means that the new parameter value is effective for the current running instance as well as it will be effective for the next bounce of the instance. Okay. I mean, you are permanently modifying the parameter value for the current instance, for the currently running instance, as well as whenever the instance is bounced in future, that time also the new value will become effective. Getting it?
Yes.
Okay. Because, so the difference between SP file and both is that in case of SP file, your new parameter value is not getting effective for the currently running instance. It will only get effective for the next future bounce time. Okay. The other possible value for scope is scope equals to memory. Okay. What happens in case of scope equals to memory is you only want to modify the parameter value for the currently running instance. Okay. Next time when the instance is bounced, you want the parameter value to be going back to its previous value. Let's say that for an example, we have this parameter in let's take an example itself, this itself. Okay. So currently your open cursors parameter has a value of 200. Okay. If you just want to verify it again, already we are seeing it still. Let's say this parameter value is currently having a value of 200. What I'll do, I'll say this alter system set open underscore cursors equals to 300 and I'll say scope equals to memory. Okay. Now, if you see the parameter value, it is showing you a value of 300. That's what we updated it. Correct. But if you bounce the instance, see, after bouncing the instance, the parameter value has again gone back to 300. Why is it so? Because when you modified the parameter value, you said scope equals to memory, which means that you wanted this value to be updated only for the currently running instance. Okay. As soon as you bounce the instance, the parameter value will go back to its previous value. Okay. So its previous value was 200, right? So as soon as you bounce the instance, the parameter value is again showing 200. Clear with the difference between these three options? Scope equals to SP file, scope equals to both, and scope equals to memory.
Yes.
Okay, so I'll just make a note over here. Scope equals to SP file means the
You
parameter value
a
will
place
be
after restart.
effective after the instance is restarted,
Or bouncing.
and it will be the new permanent value of the parameter. Okay,
Hmm.
both means the parameter value will be effective for the current as well as future. Okay, the parameter value will be effective for the currently running instance as well as it will be the new permanent value for of the parameter for okay. What happens in case of memory is uh, the parameter value will be effective only for the currently running instance, will be effective only, okay, only for the currently running instance. Okay, once your instance is bounced, the parameter value will go back to its previous value. Clear with this?
Yes.
Okay, thanks. Okay, so if you remember, while we were discussing this architecture, we talked about something called as the trace files, right? So one of those trace files we discussed yesterday, that is called as the database alert log. Okay, so if you want to check that alert log, we fire this show parameter dump. Okay, so there is a, so when I fire this show parameter dump, basically it lists all the parameters which has the keyword dump in it. Okay, so you see all these parameters listed: background core dump, background dump test, core dump test, okay, so on and so forth. So basically, yesterday when we were discussing about alert log file, we said that it is the most important and crucial trace file for the database. If any error occurs in your database, if any problem starts to creep into the database, you will get all that information in the alert log file. Okay, so the location of the alert log file here, it is, we go to this location. Okay, okay, so this is the path where your alert log file will be present in case of your 19C database. The location of this alert log file might change from version to version. Okay, if you are working on, say, an Oracle 12C database or say an 18C database, it might change. Okay, and you as a DBA, you also have the option to set it to your choice as well. While creating the database, if you explicitly want to store that alert log file in a specific location on a specific path, you can do that. It is possible. But if you have not specified the location wherein that alert log file should get created, In that case, if you want to find where Oracle has decided by itself to store that alert log file, you can check this parameter value core dump dest, and using that, okay, if you see that parameter value has got this destination u01 so on and so forth cdump. Okay, however, I am not going inside the cdump directory. I am coming a level back and I'm going to the directory by the name trace. Okay, and in that location you look for the alert log file. Okay, here you see the alert log file. So in your database, basically there are different kinds of trace files that will keep generating in the background. Okay, so one of those important destination is this background dump dest. Okay, so if you go to that destination, that location, wherever it is pointing to, basically your background dump dest is the path, or it is the location wherein all your background trace files, like we saw all these background processes, right? Pmon, smon, ckpt, all these background processes. So whenever any of these background process wants to log certain information, okay, if they want to write some critical information, they will generate a trace file in this background dump dest location. Clear with that? So look at the name itself, it is like background dump dest. That means it is specifically used for the background processes. Then there is another location, that is core dump dest. Now this core dump dest, it is specifically used by Oracle for logging some very critical errors. Okay, if the Oracle database faces some critical errors, it might generate some core dump files. Okay, and those core dump basically these dump files or trace files, if you as a DBA try to open it and try to read through all those information, okay, you are not going to make much sense out of it. Okay, these are trace files. Mostly the Oracle engineers, they will be requesting for these trace files to identify what has gone wrong in your database. Okay, so you both of you must be working with Microsoft engineers, right? In
Yes, yes.
various,
They
for
they
various
used to.
problems or issues.
Yes, if they ask anything, they will ask a log file, some SQL error
Exactly.
log file.
So exactly. So those trace files or those log files, basically they are logging in all the crucial information that is happening in the background. Okay. And if you are looking for some specific RCA for a problem, in those scenarios, those trace files will come into picture. Okay, so core dump dest basically is used to store, or Oracle server will automatically generate the core dump files present on this location. It will be present on this location. Again, it is not much of a use to you as a DBA. Mostly it will be requested by the Oracle engineers when you are working on some issue with them. Okay, next trace file location is the user dump test. Again, look at the name itself, it says user dump test. So there will be scenarios wherein the user sessions, okay, when the users connect to the database, we said that it is called as establishing a session in the database. So the users also might want to generate some specific trace files, okay, based on their requirement or based on some or the other scenarios that might require them to generate some trace files. Okay, or even Oracle engineers will ask you, or Oracle engineers will give you some commands which the users need to fire at their session end, and that will generate user trace files. Okay, so there will be specific events or scenarios wherein you are required to generate those user trace files. So where those user trace files will be generated? It will be generated on the location which is specified by this parameter, user dump test. Okay. So three crucial trace file locations for us as a DBA: this background dump test, the core dump test, and the user dump test. Okay. Clear with this? Most important for us as a DBA for viewing any information is the alert log file. Okay. And at which location it is present? It is present inside this U01 app Oracle diag RDBMS, then name of the database, instance name, and trace file. Trace inside the trace directory. So you will have the alert log file there. So this alert log file, it will get created as soon as you try to create the database. Okay. During the database creation stage itself, the alert log file will get generated. And there will be one alert log file forever. Okay. It keeps on auto incrementing. But what happens is, if its size, it keeps on increasing by itself, because every second there will be so much information that is getting logged inside this alert log file. So the file size will keep on increasing, 1 GB, 2 GB, 3 GB. Okay. But if the size becomes too much, say 5 GB, 6 GB, and then you try to open it, or if you try to find some information from that huge sized trace file, it will be a problem for you. Okay. So in industry, what we do is, either on a daily basis or on a weekly basis, we will purge, or say we will recreate this file. So it is also possible to recreate this file. If, say, I want to, if I rename this data, if I rename this file, okay, currently you see this alert underscore db1.log. What I'll do now is mv, that is, I want to rename this file to, okay. Now, if you try to find it again, let's connect to the database once and fire some command. It should generate a new alert log file by itself. Why isn't it generating that? I do a shut mediate and you see now it has generated. It took some time. I think, I don't know, when we fired the checkpoint command, that time itself it should have generated. Maybe it took some time to generate that file. But if you see here, it has again, it has generated the new alert log file. Okay. So in industry, what we do is, on a daily basis or on, say, on a weekly basis, we will purge out this alert log file. Okay, purge out, say, or we, what we will do is, we will copy the entries for the whole last week, put it in a separate file. Okay, so that the size of these alert log files, it will not be way too much at any given point in time. Okay, so we make it in a, I mean, it will be done through the scripts, of course. Okay. Understood that, Mahesh and Azaz?
Yes, Dhruv.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, okay, fine, thanks.